In the last episode, we had done a proof by contradiction and I believe a proof using EM. Hopefully, now that I've gotten the hang of these, especially using that classical.em, these next proofs will go a lot smoother and you'll be able to see a better example of someone doing a good proof. So we left off on imp or not, which was the third example of what we were going to show in the last episode. So that's going to be a function that takes a function h to q, p to q, and we need to return a or, which is not p or q. We already know how to do that. So classical.em is going to give us our or. So we're going to we have a p to q, so it makes sense to do p here so that we can map p. Hopefully this will work. We have not p or, whoops, I'm using types instead of names for hypotheses. If HP or HNP, we're going to have that from, now I'm realizing that we should have done obtain instead of our intro. I'm not in tactic mode, so we'll put a by to go into tactic mode. And this is going to be a bar pattern. So now what's the problem? Oh, I haven't given classical EM a type. Okay, so now we have HP in the first case and not P in the second case. This looks very clear to me, as does the first. We're just going to map HPQ to HP to get Q, and then we're going to do or.in. And then in the second case, I mean, this was just taking that, to build up the not P or Q, we were taking P, we were making a Q from it, and then just injecting the side of the or. And in the second case, we're going to do the other side and inject the other side. So that's going to be I know it's going to be a left injection, and we're going to have HNP. This is P to Q. We're actually, wait a second here, what was the or? We have not P already, so we could do or injection on that. What else? Yeah, that's, we don't need to do anything fancy here. HNP. Okay, great. So that's the first one. It's already going a lot smoother. Again, like the key to these proofs is choosing the correct function from classical to use. This proof could be done, of course, by a contradiction, but you're not going to make your life easy doing that. Okay, so for this one, this is the opposite contra-positive. Usually it's written P to Q implies not Q to not P. This is going to be lambdas everywhere because we're getting and returning a lambda. So lambda HN, Q, and P, those two. Go into tactic mode. You know what, let's just, let's put this into a tactic immediately. Intro HNQNP. And now we have to build up a function from P to Q. So how can we do that? Well, it seems to me like we'll need to, if we have a not Q, and from that we can show not P, and we need to show a function from P to Q, then we need a hypothesis of not Q, and we need a conclusion of Q. And so to do that, we're going to use classical.em again, but we're going to use Q this time instead of P. After doing that, we're going to have two cases. In the first case, we're going to have HQ, and we need to show P implies Q, but that's really easy because we can just do a constant function to directly return HQ, right? We don't need the P if we already have Q. In the second case, it'll be a bit more involved. We're going to have to use everything here. It's going to take an HP, and we have a function from not Q to not P. So let's do that first. HNQ, and I'm going to illustrate some tactic mode here. So we have H not P by applying, no, let's do exact. We really don't need to do apply HNQNP to HNQ. It's going to be explicit about the type. And from HNP, we can show a contradiction by saying HNP, HP. And to get whatever we want from that, we're going to do dot lim. Okay, we have to say exact, right? And that's it. So this one was a bit more involved. We had assumed not Q, and that let us show not P. And then not P let us show a contradiction because our function is from this, the resulting function lets us assume P. So if you have not P and P, then you're pretty much done. Okay, this next one's super easy. I'm just going to copy this, paste it down here, and add a P. We have a whole lot of functions here. So let's do our intros. So these parentheses are grouped to the left. So we actually, this one is actually a little bit tricky, right? Because I don't think I'll be able to intro anything. Oh, no, I could. Okay, great. Yeah, because I guess I got confused by these outer parentheses. You don't need those at all. That makes it clear that this is the first argument. So this is going to be an HPQP, I guess we could say. Okay, but then I don't get to assume anything else. That's the first argument and that's it. Now I have to show that from this, I can get to P. Well, okay. All I have to do is give HPQP a function from P to Q, and then I get back P. But I don't have a P to Q, right? So we have to think again about that relationship between not something and an implication, right? So not P, for example, is P to Q. So if I need P to Q, that means really I just need not P, because there's no way I'm going to get a Q here, of course. Q is in the right of the implication arrow. You're not going to be able to make it from nothing. So that means I know for a fact that I'm going to need to show I'm going to need not P, right? So once again, we're going to use classical.em. We're going to obtain, I'm just going to copy this line. And this is going to give us our not P in one case and our P in another case. In the first case, of course, it's super easy. We just get our goal, right? This last goal here is just P, so we're solved the first case. In the second case, though, we're going to need to do, let's see, we have HPQP, we have HNP. So this is another example. This is going to be another example of where we have to specialize HNP, a function from P to false, to a specific function P to Q. To do that, we can say, let's just make sure we have this set up here, P and Q. One fancy way of doing it is to recognize that HNP is a function which can be composed with some other function that takes false and returns Q from false, because you can show anything from false. And that function is false.elim. So that would look like this, false.elim after HNP. That gives us back a P implies Q. You have to tell Lean that this is a P implies Q, because false.elim isn't going to know what you want to prove until you tell Lean. Okay, so we'll call this HPQ. If you wanted to do this just with lambdas without function composition, it would look like this. Lambda HP implies, and then you would do HPQ to HP, and you would apply false.elim to that, or just call elim on that. What's going on here? HPQ is, what do you mean unknown? Oh, I'm trying to use the hypothesis here. HPQP. Did I do the original one wrong? No, I didn't. Okay. We want to do HNP. So now we just need to show P. Well, we have not P. We have everything here. This could have been, let's see, HPQ. Yeah, I was going to use replace, but it doesn't really make sense. Okay, we're ready here. We just need to say we just need to hand off HPQ to HPQP. BQP, HPQ. Okay, great. Awesome. We're going really fast. So we finished now the classical logic examples. Once you know the trick to these, they're really not that bad. Mostly that's usually about finding which classical.em you're going to use. Surprisingly, in all of these, I thought a few of them would be easier by contradiction, but that was not the case at all. Okay, so now we have to prove this last one that was actually forgotten in the first episodes where we were not doing classical logic. So we're going to go back to pre-classical, and we need to prove that not P if and only if not P. So, okay, this is a function. Right away, we get to assume, I'm going to do our intro because it's an if and only if. We get to assume an if and only if statement, HP, if and only if H not P. And we need to show from that a contradiction. Well, that's pretty easy, right? Don't we just do exact? HNP. Okay. No, it's not quite that easy. So we're not assuming P and not P here. We're assuming either P implies not P or P not P implies P, right? So in the first one, this is actually HP NP, and the second one, this is HNP P. Okay, so both of these are functions, right? And we need to show false from both of them. And really, this is just going to be a lot easier if we are explicit about the types. So to be explicit about the types, I'm pretty sure our intro will let us do that. So we can say this is a function, p implies not p. Great. And now, instead of saying not p here, we're going to be super explicit and say not false. Okay, so it implies false. And then in h and p, we're going to do the same thing. Uh-oh, and I get an error because this is not the same. Left parentheses here are important. Now, how can we show false? Well, clearly, we're going to be using this guy, right? We have to use HPNP, and we need to give it a p at least. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify this. I'm going to say HNP. We're going to have not p by just making a simpler function out of HPNP. And that simpler function is going to look like this. It's going to take an HP, and it's just going to apply HP twice to HPNP, which takes a redundant P, right? And it's going to get false. Okay, so now I'm a bit closer. So now we have something to give to H and PP to get P. And from P, we can show false. So, okay, now I can just say we have HP, and now we apply HNP to H not P. We can say exact HNP HP to close the goal. Right, great. So this one was just a lot easier if you were explicit about the functions, because if you're like me, it's a little bit harder to see the P implies falses, especially in parentheses when they're hidden behind the not symbol. So if you get stuck with something involving negation, I would recommend that you rewrite things explicitly as implies false. Awesome.